Alright, hello, my name is Brian Frank. I'm going to be explaining the problem right here. So the problem is 16 squared plus 4 y squared plus 32x minus 8y, which equals 44. And the first thing you have to do is find if it's an ellipse, a circle, or a parabola. So this is an ellipse because it has it has both x squared and y squared on the same side. As you can see, they're both on the same side, but they have different numbers. So the first thing to solve the equation is you have to put both of the x's on the same side and both of the y's on the same side. Then you have to take out the big number, take it out of the x's, which then you're left with x squared plus 2x. Over here, I'll tell you how to find the 1 a little bit. Over here, the first thing you have to do is take out the 4, which leaves you with yx minus 2y. Then the next thing you have to do is you have to find the third number, which you have to do is divide by 2. You have to divide this number right here, which is the 2. You have to divide it by 2 and then square it. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1. Over here, same thing. You have to divide it by 2. You have to divide it by 2 is negative 2. Divide by 2 is negative 1. And when you square root a negative, it's going to give you a positive. So negative 1 squared is 1. So once you do all that, the first number that you get, you have to multiply with the number that you took out, and you have to move it to the other side as well, because everything you do on one side, you have to do it to the other side. So over here it's 1 times 16, which 16, move it over here, you add it to the 44 that's already out here. 1 times 4 is 4, you take it out, and it's you have to add it to 44 and 16. Once you do all that, you sing our favorite song Mr. Jamerson taught us, which is you take the square root of the first one, take the square root of the last one, you take the sine of the middle term, and then you square it. You have to do that for both sides. You leave the 16 and the 4 outside. You don't touch those at all anymore. So once you do all that, and you solve what's over here, it's 44 plus 16 plus 4 equals 64. The next thing you have to do is divide 64 to both parts, which you end up getting. Oh, I messed up. Give me 1 second. Let me fix it. So you have 4 right here. All right. Once you divide 64 and 16, once you simplify, what you get is x plus 1 squared over 4. Over here you get y minus 1 squared over 16, which equals out 1, because an ellipse always equals out to 1. So the next thing you have to do is find the centers. The centers is just these numbers right here, but the opposite. So the x would be negative 1, which is right there. This one would be positive 1, which is right there, and that is your center. Then you have to find the vertices. The vertices, whichever number has the biggest value, which in this case would be the y, the one that's under y, which is 16. And 16, if the square root of 16 is 4, the square root of 4 is 2. In that case, you have to since 16 is the biggest number and it's under y, you have to add and subtract it to the y, but you have to add and subtract the square root of 16, which is 4. So once you do all that, you subtract it to the y in the center. So once you do all that, you get negative 1 as your x and 5 as your y, and that's when you add it. When you subtract it, you get negative 1 as your x and negative 3 as your y. Same thing for co-vertices. Vertices and the co-vertices, just vertices means which one's the biggest one, and co-vertices which one's the smallest one. In this case, which was 4, which is under x. You do all of that to the x value in the center, because it basically means how far it is from the center. And once you do -1 plus or minus to 2, because the square root of 4 is 2. Once you get all that, when you subtract it, you get -3 as your x, and y stays as 1. Once you add it, you get 1 as your x and 1 as your y, because it stays. Once you have all of that, you need to find the foci. But the first thing you have to do to find the foci is subtract the 16 and the 4, which is 12. Then you have to square root of that, which you end up getting 2 to the square root of 3. When you do all that, you do the same thing to the biggest value to find the foci, which in the center, which is the y, in the center, which is 1. You leave the x as is, and then you have to do 1 plus and minus x to the square root of 3. When you do all that, you get when you get all that, you get -1 to around 4.5 as your y when you add it, and then you get -1 to as your x, because it stays, and -2.5 as your y when you subtract, which is around that value. The next and the last thing you have to do is graph it. So let me show you how to graph it. First, you find your center. The center was -1 and 1. You go 1 to the left, it's -1, up 1, just plot the center, that's it. And then the vertices is -1, -1, and 5. So you go -1, up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's one vertices. The next one is -1 to -3, which you have to go down 3, 1, 2, 3. And that's it. That's your 2 vertices, which is the biggest of values. Then you have to plot the co-vertices. Co-vertices is -3 and 1. You go left 3, 1, 2, 3, up 1. That's the first value. The first dot. And the next one is 1, 1. You go 1 to the right, up 1. That's your last one. Next things that you kind of have to plot, and at the same time you don't have to plot, is the foci. In this case, it was -1 to 4.5. You go left 1, and up 4.5 is 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, wait, I plotted that wrong. Give me 1 second. Oh wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I plotted it wrong. All right, it's be right here. All right, which is the foci. All right, there you go. See, everyone makes mistakes. Not everyone always correct. Even though I'm a math teacher now, you dig. Mr. Jameson taught me well. Anyway, it'd be, what was it again? Negative. It would be left 1, up 4, 4.5, 1, 2, 3, 4.5, which would be right in the middle. Next one would be -1 to -2.5. You go left 1, down 2.5 is 1, 2.5, which is right in the middle of 2 and 3. So that is it. That is how you find a conic problem, to find if it's a circle, a parabola, or an ellipse. In this case, this problem was an ellipse, And that's your step-by-step on how to find the value of the problem and how to graph it as your last thing. Thank y'all so much for watching, and let's hope I get a good grade on this.